Schultz had put it out, and then Jay Glazer followed that Aaron Rodgers will not be coming back to the New York Jets. So I've been on the phone this morning with a couple of different sources, and let me just tell you what I've been told. Aaron Glenn, who came from that incredibly strong Detroit Lion culture, and these were the exact words I was told. He didn't want the player or the person in the building as he started his NFL head coaching career, and that doesn't necessarily mean Aaron's a bad person. That's not the point. Is that for what you deal with Aaron, you have to be far more productive than Aaron is at this point in his career, which is around the 15th best quarterback in the league. And again, we all know this: the more talent you have, the more stuff people will put up with. But Aaron now has been dumped twice. This is stuff I talked about 8 years ago and got enormous pushback, even from NFL media people. Aaron's a lot of work. I've known multiple Packers who have played with him. He is moody. Depends on what Aaron you get in the building. And Green Bay caught him off guard, and so did the Jets. Glazer's report was he flew all the way to New York, and with the idea that he was going to be a Jet for at least one more year. And they informed him that won't be the case. So I'm a little surprised because I thought Aaron played well in the last 8 or so weeks of the year, and I do think this is a bad quarterback draft, and so I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do. And Saleh and Ulbrich are not the kind of guys really to push back on Aaron. Aaron Glenn's a different cat. He's very intense. He's very bottom line. He's not a compromising guy, and he did not want to start his New York career with Aaron Rodgers in the building. That's what I was told. And I think Peyton Manning left Indy and won a Super Bowl. Tom Brady left Tampa, or Tom Brady left New England and won a Super Bowl. Brett Favre left Green Bay, eventually ends up in Minnesota and is a play from the Super Bowl with the Vikings. They had great success. Aaron did not. Hurt, and then a really, really bad season in a division where, New England was bad and Miami is a little bit dysfunctional and limited. So there are two teams. I just ran into Chip Kelly Saturday early evening, and we were talking about the Raiders at quarterback before either one of us had this information. And I think the Raiders and the Colts are the two places, if Aaron wants to play, that would be good fits. Shane Steichen in Indy, I like that roster. I don't think it's a top 5 roster, but I think it's a good roster in a winnable division. And I think having Chip Kelly, 2 good tight ends, 2 offensive tackles, young, their center. I think Las Vegas has Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly. I think that's a very promising landing spot if Aaron wants to play. There are people, I was told this morning, that are unsure in the NFL if Aaron wants to play. And only Aaron can answer that. And that could go back and forth depending on the mood. Who knows? I'm not going to try to speculate whether Aaron wants to play or not. I have no idea. Some of the notes I have here is that Aaron Glenn felt so strongly about what he wanted to build. And Aaron Glenn has an understanding that what the Jets don't have, and they haven't had for a decade or more, is a really good culture. They've had good players. Aaron Glenn has told people there's a lot of talent on this roster, and a lot of it's on defense. I've said this, that if you look at all the job openings this year, we may have misgivings about the Jets' ownership and their stability and their impulsive nature. At least that's how I view them over the last decade. They've run through a lot of coordinators and a lot of coaches. The roster's fine. The roster's absolutely fine. But Aaron now is expensive. And Devontae Adams, my guess would be, I asked somebody this morning about Devontae Adams. He's very expensive, and he came to New York willingly because of Aaron Rodgers. So my guess is the Jets, and it's a pretty good guess, would probably cut Aaron and Devontae Adams, who's very expensive. He made over $25 million last year. I did not look that up this morning, but this really comes down to something I have hit on and talked about for years and years. And it doesn't mean he's necessarily a bad person. That's not what I'm saying. But I've had enough people in Aaron Rodgers' orbit that he is. Depends on the day and what you get from Aaron. And Aaron Glenn was not going to walk on eggshells. He just came from Detroit. He knows what culture means. He took over a Jets-like situation where you had some talent, but you when's the last time we talked about the Lions pre-Dan Campbell and what a great culture it was? Like never. They'd had Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders and Matt Stafford. They've had really good players. But the culture is the secret sauce for the Lions now, that and their O-line and drafting. They've got a really strong, formidable culture. The Jets have players. Jets have better players today for Aaron Glenn than Dan Campbell had when he took over the Lions. But after about a year and a half, you were really seeing the value of culture. And Aaron Glenn, he didn't want to start with a player that's older, that's expensive, that Green Bay moved off from. They didn't know if Jordan Love was going to be the guy. They really didn't know if Jordan Love was going to be it. A lot of people still aren't sure if Jordan Love's going to be it. I think he's really good, bit reckless, but very good. So this has been a theme in Aaron Rodgers' career. I don't think Aaron was difficult early in his career. I mean, if you read the Jeff Pearlman book, it really laid out that Favre was not always the most welcoming to Aaron Rodgers. They get along now fine. Probably because both have had some, turbulence in their careers. Certainly, Favre has, and Aaron's. It's been a little bumpy landing in New York, a little bumpy at the end in Green Bay with management. But I think the Raiders and Chip Kelly would be a pretty good landing spot. I will tell you that I have had now 3 different people tell me over the course, I had 2 in New Orleans and one over the last 2 days tell me Shedeur Sanders is gaining steam and Shedeur Sanders could possibly drop to the Raiders. I think that would be my hunch, that they need a quarterback. They didn't get good quarterback play. They're not missing a ton. I mean, they're really not. They need a running back and a quarterback and another weapon. There's a lot the Raiders have. I know that division is tough, but if you're Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly and let's say Aaron Rodgers, you're going to have to face Mahomes and Justin Herbert and Sean Payton and Bo Nix in the playoffs potentially. You might as well have 6 games against those teams going into the playoffs if you landed there and succeeded. But I think over the course of time, we have to be completely honest. And I know there's a lot of, Aaron fans. I get it. But when you get dumped twice and are surprised both times, maybe it's not somebody else. Aaron has that quality, and this has been shared with me on more than one occasion. And he's certainly not the only person that has this, but kind of needs to be the smartest guy in the room. And that can be off-putting to some. But I don't know if he's going to continue his career. It doesn't matter. He's the 15th best quarterback in the league right now. It doesn't matter. The league moves on. It moved on from Brady and Peyton Manning and Drew Brees. It's certainly going to move on. It moved on from the wildly popular Brett Favre and Joe Montana. It's going to move on just fine. But I'm told that Aaron Glenn, knowing the value of culture, he made it very clear inside that building in New York that he wanted a clean start, fresh start, everybody headed in the same direction, didn't want to walk on eggshells, didn't want to have to deal with any unnecessary potential drama. And so I don't know where they're going. They're not going to go get Sam Darnold. I doubt that. But I've said this before. It may not be the strongest NFL draft in the first round for quarterbacks, but I do think Kyle McCord from Syracuse or Riley Leonard are really interesting players. Riley Leonard had a very good Senior Bowl. I've had multiple people. They really like Kyle McCord from Syracuse. They see him as a starting quarterback in the NFL. But that is the news on Aaron Rodgers as we get ready for pre-Super Bowl. It's interesting. I like Kansas City in this game, but I say this without a ton of conviction. There's 2 numbers I like a lot. Mahomes is 8-0 against Vic Fangio, and Andy Reid is 33-7 off a bye. And the 4 best players for the Chiefs they've all been in this game, and several of them have been in it many times. And I like the experience in this spot. But Philadelphia does have a better accumulation of talent. I don't think anybody denies that. But I think the Eagles' number one defense somewhat is built on the fact that they faced a lot of bad quarterbacks. The AFC is much better at the top, whereas the Chiefs faced Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and Justin Herbert twice, and Bo Nix and Sean Payton twice, and C.J. Stroud and Joe Burrow, and beat Kirk Cousins early when he was good. You know, the Eagles faced the New York Giants offense twice and lost to Kirk Cousins, and the Saints and Cleveland, Jags, Carolina, Steelers, Dallas with Cooper Rush. I don't think Philadelphia faced as many good quarterbacks, in my opinion, and as many good coaches as the Chiefs defense did. I think the Chiefs on average face better coaches and better quarterbacks. Although, you know, both teams faced Kirk Cousins, Philadelphia lost to him. Both teams faced Joe Burrow, but Kansas City beat Kirk Cousins, who was pretty good when both those teams got a shot at him. So, I not that the Eagles defense isn't good, but my takeaway is if you had the fifth best defense in the NFL and you're playing in the AFC and you're facing Lamar and Josh and Herbert a couple times and Stroud and Nix and Burrow and Kirk Cousins when he was in really good shape and some good coaching, that's a handful. So I think it's a close game. I think in the second half the scoring gets ratcheted up and the defenses tire out a little bit and you'll see some really big time plays. But I think you're going to get a classic Super Bowl.
Cowboys Nation, hold on to your seats because we've got breaking news that could shake up the entire NFL. A bombshell report has just dropped, and trust me, you won't want to miss this one. Could Aaron Rodgers be on his way to Dallas? Let's dive in. The New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers have officially decided to part ways. That's right, multiple sources, including Fox Sports' Jay Glazer and ESPN, have confirmed that the Jets informed Rodgers last week that they're moving on. After a disastrous stint that saw him play only a handful of snaps before an Achilles injury sidelined him, the Jets are cutting ties. But here's where it gets really interesting. Cut to graphic with Dallas Cowboys in talks. In bold text, sources close to the situation have hinted that Jerry Jones and the Cowboys front office are exploring the possibility of bringing Rodgers to Big D. Imagine a future Hall of Famer, a four-time MVP, stepping into the huddle at AT&T Stadium. The big question is, would Rodgers be the missing piece to finally get this team back to the Super Bowl? Now, let's talk about what this means for Dak Prescott. Could this move signal the end of Dak's time in Dallas? Or would the Cowboys be looking at Rodgers as a veteran presence to push this team over the top? With Dak's contract situation still looming and the team desperate for postseason success, Jerry Jones might just be pulling another wild card move. Let's break down the numbers. Rodgers' contract with the Jets was a massive one, and any team looking to bring him in will have to navigate salary cap constraints. The Cowboys have already invested heavily in star players like Micah Parsons, C.D. Lamb, and Trayvon Diggs. So how does Rodgers fit into that equation? Will Jerry Jones be willing to restructure contracts or even let go of key players to make this deal happen? These are huge questions that could define the Cowboys' 2025 season. Many analysts believe Rodgers still has gas left in the tank. Despite being 41, his arm strength, decision-making, and ability to read defenses remain top tier. If he's healthy and surrounded by a strong supporting cast, there's no reason to believe he can't be elite. However, injuries are always a concern, and Dallas would be taking a major risk by bringing him in at this stage in his career. Cowboys fans are already going crazy online. Some are hyped about the idea of Rodgers in silver and blue, while others are skeptical about bringing in a 41-year-old QB coming off an injury. But let's be real, Rodgers still has one of the best arms in football, and if he's healthy, he could make this offense lethal. Look at these numbers. While Dak had a strong 2024 season, Rodgers, when healthy, has proven he can still play at an elite level. The experience, the leadership, the Super Bowl pedigree, it's hard to ignore what he brings to the table. But is he worth the risk? The Cowboys' offense is already stacked with talent. With weapons like C.D. Lamb, Brandon Cooks, and a strong offensive line, Rodgers could thrive in this system. Mike McCarthy, who previously coached Rodgers in Green Bay, could also play a key role in making this transition smooth. But does Rodgers' playing style still fit McCarthy's modern offense? That's something that remains to be seen. Dallas has a history of bringing in veteran QBs, some successful, others not so much. We've seen names like Randall Cunningham, Drew Bledsoe, and even Tony Romo make waves, but how would Rodgers compare? Would he be another short-term experiment or a legitimate Super Bowl caliber leader for the Cowboys? So, what happens next? Negotiations could begin behind closed doors, or Jerry Jones might just wait and see how Rodgers' market develops. The NFL landscape is changing, and quarterback movement is at an all-time high. Will Dallas make a blockbuster move, or will they stick with Dak and continue building around him? Now, here's where you come in. Would you welcome Aaron Rodgers to the Dallas Cowboys? Should Jerry Jones take the gamble, or should they stick with Dak? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you love staying up to date on all things Cowboys, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Cowboys Nation, this is going to be a wild offseason. Stay tuned, because we'll be breaking down every twist and turn right here. See you in the next video.